Lowe's knows how to help you get the most out of your store run. That's why members save more with My Lowe's Rewards. Earn points towards My Lowe's money on eligible purchases. Get access to member-only deals and free member gifts. Plus, unlock free standard shipping when you reach Silver Key status. So what are you waiting for? Join for free today. Lowe's. We help. You save. Loyalty program subject to terms and conditions. Details at lowes.com/terms. Subject to change.
Are negative Google reviews hurting your business? Don't let unfair feedback cost you customers. At Webamax, we specialize in removing false, misleading, and damaging reviews so your online reputation stays strong. Our expert team works quickly and legally to clean up your digital presence, helping you rebuild trust. Visit us on the web at www.gowebamax.com. That's GOWEBIMAX.com, or text us for a free quote at 856-840-8343. Don't let bad reviews define you. Get immediate help from Webamax.
This episode is brought to you by Abercrombie. There's nothing better than the perfect jean and going out top combo, or an outfit that perfectly matches your plans. Abercrombie's relaxed jean goes with every occasion. Date nights with something lace, or daytime with a cozy sweater. And their barrel jean will surprise you. It's the trend that will become a staple in your wardrobe. Abercrombie denim comes in tons of rises, fits, and washes. Find your perfect pair online or in store.
I think I just won my taxes.
Yeah?
I just switched to H&R Block in about 1 minute. All I had to do was drag and drop last year's return into H&R Block, and bam, my information is automatically there.
So I don't have to go digging around for all my old papers to switch?
Nope.
Sounds like we just leveled up our tax game.
Switching to H&R Block is easy. Just drag and drop your last return. It's better with Block.
The wrongs we must right. The fights we must win. The future we must secure together for our nation. This is what's in front of us. This determines what's next for all of us. We are Marines. We were made for this.
Hello, it's the monthly mailbag exclusively for Country Club tier subscribers at the Islanders Anxiety Patreon page. Thank you so much for your support, for your dough, and for your great questions. And Mike, the Islanders are off for a couple weeks. Not you, Brock Nelson. You've got a tournament to play in. But the Islanders fans and our great patrons have a lot on their minds. This is a very wide-ranging selection of questions here. Are you ready to dive in?
Yeah, I always am, and especially now, like you said, with the break, and it is a break for the New York Islanders, but it is not a break for intrepid, objective reporters out there. For the we joked a lot on Islanders Anxiety about how the Four Nations face-off was just a literally the NHL appeasing members of the hockey media who've been clamoring for this for years. Just throwing them a bone, trying to get them to shut up, and it's had the opposite effect. I feel like the plan has backfired. Yeah. I keep seeing pictures of just players that we have plenty of pictures of already talking to one another on the ice as if it's some new species got discovered in the Amazon.
Right.
Oh, there's Mitch Marner with his hand on Connor McDavid's shoulder, wearing Canada colors.
It's
I want to get one of those tranquilizer dart guns, the blow darts, and just
what are these guys going to be like at the end of 2 weeks?
You almost feel for the players who are like, yeah, man, I was great. I get a break from Luke Fox's jukebox and all these guys and Michael Russo sifting through my trash, and hey, land in Montreal and look at this.
Yeah. No, actually, now Michael Russo has a lot more trash to sift through of other players that he normally would. Brock Nelson's going to find him stripping through his trash as well. So I was listening to Merrick versus Wyshynski today. They do a thing in Merrick's show on Tuesdays, and I was actually kind of surprised to find that Merrick was kind of down on the whole tournament in general, which I thought was surprising. But Wyshynski brought up a good point. He's like, some of our colleagues are treating this like it's the Olympics, as if it's not like a made up fake tournament just to shut them up, basically, which is what we've been saying for weeks. And I thought it was kind of funny that they also see it that way, but he's excited for it. Merrick is not, I am not, you're not. And I think most of our Islanders fan patrons are not. However, we are going to start with a man who better be up for this tournament. To paraphrase AC/DC, let there be Brock. Our first questions here are all about Brock Nelson, and we're going to start with Adam, who says, please place your best guesses on the percentage of chance of these scenarios will happen. 1, Brock Nelson is traded and the Islanders miss the playoffs. 2, Brock Nelson isn't traded and the Islanders miss the playoffs. 3, Brock Nelson is traded and the Islanders make the playoffs. 4, Brock Nelson isn't traded and the Islanders make the playoffs. 5, Brock Nelson isn't traded and signs with the Wild on July 1st and posts a pic of himself as a kid in Wild/North Stars bed sheets. Okay, let me pause right there. Let's I guess we could rank these in terms of like how likely we think they are. So I'll throw it right to you. Of these, what do you think is the least likely, and what would you say is the most likely?
Okay. Yep, and like you said, we do have a lot of Brock questions.
Yes.
So I'll try not to step all over myself.
Right.
Excuse me, with all these answers, but and we've obviously talked a lot about this leading up to it. This is a great way to kind of think about the question, though.
Right.
I think the most likely scenario is Brock is not traded and the Islanders miss the playoffs. Just probability wise, I would say the least likely scenario is he's not traded, signs with the Wild, and the picture of himself as a kid. But and here comes the Players Tribune article. What I am obviously rooting for, is Brock is not traded and Islanders make the playoffs. I would say that's probably in the middle of these, and right alongside, Brock is traded and Isles miss the playoffs. So, what do I think the best scenario for the Islanders is? I have no idea. Like I know I'm asking my own question, but because I want Brock to stay, I want them to make the playoffs, and but I do think that it's probably more likely at this point that he's not traded and they miss. So
yeah,
just let's lose up mo.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. To steal a phrase that we hate, the math isn't with them, or I don't like their math. It's probably more likely that they miss the playoffs at this point with 27 games to go, 4 points out. They would need another big run, but they would also need about half a dozen teams to start losing, and that's probably not likely. In fact, most of them are actually getting hotter, unfortunately, right now. Whether or not Brock is traded is sort of the big question right now. We're going to get to another question, obviously, in a minute. We got a bunch of Brock Nelson questions here. We are also hoping to talk to Arthur Staple on Sunday about his article about the situation as well, and trying to get a little bit more insight. But really, it all is up to Brock and whether or not he wants to stay or whether or not he wants to go someplace else. I think it's likely that both of the missed playoff options here are, the most likely, whereas it's hard to see them trading Brock and making the playoffs, but I guess that would depend on what they got back. Like if they got back a player who could slide right into the roster and reproduce what Brock does, yeah, I could see a scenario where that happens. So I think that's not as crazy as it sounds, but it's most likely if he is traded, they will miss the playoffs. Or it's to say he isn't traded and they miss the playoffs. I'm getting myself confused, and it's already the first question. The signing with the Wild and the bed sheets thing, I would like to think Brock is a little smarter than that, and I know Adam is joking around. If that happens, I think I might just have to set myself on fire. And if this podcast ends, you'll know why. It's because Brock Nelson posted a picture of himself in Wild bed. I don't know if he would have had Wild bed sheets. They started playing in 2000, so I don't know. Probably would have been. It's funny because Brock might have been there. He might have come of age sort of in that sort of nether region limbo between the North Stars and the Wild, like that sort of 10-year period, but
I think we pointed this out, and then it was pointed out by Brendan Burke on the broadcast a couple of times too. Maybe they were Winnipeg Jets fans growing up because War Road is much closer to Winnipeg than it is to Minneapolis, and
yes,
so I always find that funny that everyone is just like, oh, he's going to the Wild. If he wants to be as close to that family up there in War Road as possible, he's actually going to go to Winnipeg.
Right. So. And also, not for nothing, but he wants to win a Stanley Cup before he retires.
Oh, I love that.
Why would he sign in Minnesota?
He's going to go to the Wild then, buddy.
Might as well just stay with the Islanders. Like, I don't understand.
Yeah.
That's pretty fun. Well, they have, okay, so fine. They have a Kaprizov. Yeah, great. And
For 1 year. Yeah. Then
yeah, right. Yeah. Before he's off to Chicago or wherever. So, Adam, this was a great kickoff question for us because, again, we have a lot of Brock coming up. So, again, I think we try to answer this question as best we can. Most likely they miss whether he's traded or not, then make, but we'll have to see where it goes. To that end, Castlebar brings up an article that came out today in the New York Post. I'll read the quotes in a second, but he says, with Brock's comments today about what's best for him and his family, where on the JT91 scale do you fall on this being another please don't trade me, but I'm out of here scenario? For those who missed it, definitely check it out at the New York Post. And basically, Brock told Ethan Sears, I want what's best for me, my family, and everything. There's a lot of factors that go into it. I know everybody kind of wants an answer right now. That's not how the world works. You just don't get what you want. Everything will sort itself out. Lou is a great guy. I love playing for him. He's a great guy. He's given me a great opportunity the last 7 years. He's an influential guy in hockey in general. My agent has a great relationship with him and communicates with him, and I know everything will kind of sort itself out. Not the most encouraging quotes from Brock, but it's also not him saying, yeah, I want to stay. I want it to work out here. And then he leaves. So, I mean, at least he's giving us this speech well before that point. But where do you think this falls? Not so much on the JT91, don't trade me, but I'm out of here level, but just in comparison to the Tavares situation, because this is very different. Brock is not 27. He's, still a very good player, but he's obviously on the other side of 30 and will be even older when next year starts, where no matter where he's at. And I don't see there a lot of comparables here to what happened with Tavares, but like, what's your take on this, especially in light of these comments that were made in this Ethan Sears article?
Yeah, like if this had come out, I understand the PTSD from it, because if this had come out after he said, like after he walked or something,
right,
then you're like, oh God, not again. But what I like about Brock Nelson is that and this is something we know as a fan base that's watched him forever. People are discovering who Brock Nelson is these past 24 hours, which is so like, oh, look at this guy with like gray hair.
Right.
Yeah. He's I don't know if you guys saw, but he won some skills competition last year at the All-Star Game 2, and he scores 30 goals.
I already saw people complaining that he was on the team and not Tage Thompson. And I'm thinking to myself, 2 weeks from now, these people are going to be like, damn, Brock Nelson is awesome.
Right.
Like, yeah, he kind of is.
Yeah, he does some fun shit on the ice that people are gonna who care about this will like. And he's also very he's a clever, smart, like cheeky kind of guy. The way he plays too,
right?
Is like kind of a little bit of a shark on the ice, a little very underratedly dirty, not dirty, but you know what I mean, like sneaky. Yeah. He's a sneak. And this quote is just like so Brock to me, because he's basically he's being coy but being honest at the same time, which is explaining exactly what goes into a decision like this. Like he's even mentioned his kids being in school. He's like he played bingo, right? He hit the schools. Love Lou, great guy. It'll work itself out. So he said it all, and I guess the unfortunate thing that happened was that with this quote was that the way that it was first tweeted out was very misleading. It came out like, and I know you give Ethan Sears credit for then going back and explaining the context better. But at first it really sounded a lot worse than it was. And if you do read like the whole article, there's a lot more that goes into it, because Brock at the second part of the article at the very end, he talks about being a one jersey player and how like that goes into the decision, and like the legacy. That's definitely something also to consider. It's an emotional time. Like, we love this guy. Like and he obviously loves being an Islander and appreciates all that he's done and his legacy here. And that it must really weigh on someone like this. Because he's Brock Nelson, like he's from a hockey family, he's hockey royalty and like the U.S. hockey kind of atmosphere. You don't think that this guy knows how close he is to becoming like the third best like Islander forward ever? It's like it's
Right.
got to be weighing on him.
If
And
anybody's going to know that, it's going to be him.
Exactly. Like,
Right.
yeah, he's just he's like the back of the Brock Nelson. There's a lot of guys who I think because I mean, fuck Dennis Seidenberg works for the New York Islanders. There's a lot of guys on this team that are just going to be part of the furniture forever. But for me, Brock feels like he could be someone who just ends up working in like a front office. He's just because he's like a hockey guy, very smart, knows what's going on. And I could see him being successful wearing a suit at some point related to the Islanders. So that also, that all weighs into his decision.
Yeah, definitely. To me, these quotes read as a guy who's preemptively annoyed that he's getting asked this at this turn. Like I feel like he was kind of the subtext to what he said, especially that first quote is like, guys, I just got here. I just met my teammates, some of whom I've played against for years now. It's been less than 24 hours. We just had one practice. Can you give me a minute before I got to answer these dumb questions that I can't even really answer because I don't know. I can't tell you anything. And if I did, my general manager would have my head basically, So, but he does, like you said, he played the hits, Lou's a great guy. He loves the fan base, loves all this. Again, in opposition to the Tavares thing where he said all that stuff sort of afterwards, and it came off as very disingenuous, and he cried at the press conference thing, and it's like, dude, nobody, and it's like, oh, look at how much he loves Long Island. This was such a hard, hard decision for him. Yeah, real hard. Okay, he took one lap around the pool and decided to leave. Real hard, Nelson, on the other hand, I think is really this is a big deal for him because this is going to be the last sort of probably big multi-year contract he's going to get. He's going to be 34 years old starting next season. So he's got a lot to think about. Again, he's got, I know the number changes every time we say it, but it's 5 kids, 4 kids, whatever. It'll be 10 kids by the end of the season, right? And so he's got a lot to think about. And I think that part of him, a lot of him maybe probably does want to stay, but I mean, there might be a little bit of, curiosity out there for what can happen to him. So we'll have to see. So to me, I don't see a lot of parallels here to the JT91 situation, and like you said, I mean, if anybody, I think what we really should say is if anybody knew the Islanders' legacy and what that meant before they became an Islander, it's Brock Nelson. Like you said, comes from a hockey family. I'm sure, his uncles and whatever have told him all about your Bossies and your Trottiers and Gillies and all those guys. And so he knew that coming in. He didn't have to learn how great the Islanders were or learn how great Long Island is because they probably told him, that kind of thing. So I think there's a lot, again, I wouldn't want to be Brock in this situation because, I don't think he wants to be traded either, but who knows? But Castlebar, thank you very much. Joe asks, if we end up trading Brock, what are the chances he just re-signs with us in the offseason? It's a common scenario people talk about at the deadline that never happens. But as a resident uncle, I feel he's entrenched on Long Island. He is an uncle for sure. He might be the uncle for all we know. I don't know if there's quintessential uncles, but I think Brock Nelson might be one of them. This situation does come up every trade deadline, and it almost never happens. Again, Doug Waite is the only guy who comes to mind. I don't know if there was anybody else. Maybe David Perron, I think, might have been one because I mean he's gone back and forth to the Blues so many times. I'm not even sure when they all happen. He just seems to pop up there every once in a while. I don't know. It just seems very unlikely that this would happen because we just see it so rarely. I mean, do you have any? Would you ever put odds on, let's say, Lou, 2 weeks from now trades Nelson to wherever and then he just re-signs? I mean, I think they talked about Claude Giroux doing this. It never happened. There's all these kinds of guys that they say it's going to happen. It never does.
Ryan Smith.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, Ryan Smith.
Like they thought Ryan Smith was going to do this, and he went to Colorado, right? So
right.
It's I would say that if he gets traded, it won't happen just because the odds are so stacked against it happening. I would say that maybe I would have been more inclined to believe there was a chance of it had the Islanders been completely out of it and like a month and a half, 2 months ago, it was clear they were going to be trading him away at the deadline and they could kind of, he could do, there'd be more runway to like do it, but not now. And I do fear that it is a coin flip right now. I'm not ready to say goodbye to this guy, and I know there's a lot of people who very logically think it's for the best that they trade him, but just when you're talking about the emotional impact it would have on my life and fandom. It's just not ready for it. And I know that if it does happen, I'll be thinking about this scenario and like,
Right.
yeah, but I can't not. You were supposed to be a one jersey guy, and I saw you wearing that LA Kings jersey, and now I just can't. I can't not see it anymore.
Right. And knowing he's so close to so many,
I know,
milestones. I mean, not that he hasn't passed a bunch already, but still he's got so many more that are right there. To lose that at this stage really would kind of talk about getting to the 1 yard line. Like that would really getting tackled on the 1 yard line. That would really suck. But yeah, the thing about like signing with the team that traded you, like it almost feels like it's collusion. Like it almost feels like you had a handshake agreement to be like, yeah, I'm going to come back here, wink, wink. And I think that's probably why guys don't do it, because it might set a bad precedent. Again, Doug Wade had a whole other thing because he had played in St. Louis for so long. But this is, I don't know, it just doesn't seem likely. And also, you trade me, I might be kind of pissed off. I might not want to come back. So right. there's probably a lot that goes into that. But Joe, that's a great question, and I do love that you did remark that it almost never happens, because it doesn't really ever happen. Maybe this is the time. Maybe the curse of Doug Waite is finally going to be lifted, and Brock Nelson is the guy. But I highly doubt that'll happen.
Pepcid Complete knows that food is one of the best parts of game day. That is, until heartburn strikes. Thankfully, just one chewable tablet of Pepcid Complete provides dual-action heartburn relief with an antacid that starts working instantly and an acid reducer that lasts all day. So you can stay focused on that second helping of chili without worrying about heartburn. All day based on 8-hour symptom relief studies during the day. Use product only as directed.
Sergeant and Mr. Smith, you're gonna love this house.
Bunk beds in a closet?
There's no field manual for finding the right home. But when you do, USAA Homeowners Insurance can help protect it the right way. Restrictions apply.
You know what's smart? Enjoying a fresh gourmet meal at home that you didn't have to cook. Meet Factor, your loophole in the laws of mealtime. Chef-crafted meals delivered with a tap, ready in just 2 minutes. You know what's even smarter? Treating yourself without cheating your goals. Factor is dietitian approved, chef prepared, and you plated. Pretty smart, huh? Refresh your routine and eat smart with Factor. Learn more at factormeals.com.
It's time to rewrite the vacation rules. With Royal Caribbean, your family can look forward to just about anything. Break the thrill barrier, roaring down the tallest water slide in North America. Jump into breathtaking jungles and jaw-dropping coves. Vibe off the charts on our private island Perfect Day at Coco Cay. And end the day knowing things are just getting started. Because this isn't just any vacation. This is all the vacations. Come seek the Royal Caribbean. Ships Registry, Bahamas.
Chronic migraine, 15 or more headache days a month, each lasting 4 hours or more, can make me feel like a spectator in my own life.
Botox, onabotulinum toxin A, prevents headaches in adults with chronic migraine. It's not for those with 14 or fewer headache days a month. It's the #1 prescribed branded chronic migraine preventive treatment.
Prescription Botox is injected by your doctor. Effects of Botox may spread hours to weeks after injection, causing serious symptoms. Alert your doctor right away, as difficulty swallowing, speaking, breathing, eye problems, or muscle weakness can be signs of a life-threatening condition. Patients with these conditions before injection are at highest risk. Side effects may include allergic reactions, neck and injection site pain, fatigue, and headache. Allergic reactions can include rash, welts, asthma symptoms, and dizziness. Don't receive Botox if there's a skin infection. Tell your doctor your medical history, muscle or nerve conditions, including ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease, myasthenia gravis or Lambert-Eaton syndrome, and medications, including botulinum toxins, as these may increase the risk of serious side effects.
Why wait? Ask your doctor, visit BotoxChronicMigraine.com, or call 1-800-44-BOTOX to learn more.
Okay. Matt had a very, very long question that had a lot of good points in it. But I think, we get down to the nut of it, which is that, can either of us remember the last time a superstar got traded for a haul and had it work out for the team that traded the star away? It probably worked out for the Rangers at some point, but other than that, I can't think of one. Matt is thinking of the Buffalo-Vegas Jack Eichel trade. Buffalo got some nice pieces, but they haven't really moved forward since then. Vegas obviously won a Stanley Cup with Jack Eichel. And that is for a player much better than Brock Nelson. So that makes a lot of sense. I don't know if we can, we'll get through this in a second. Let me finish this. Finally, am I wrong to think that Brock is simply our guy? And that I like that he is our guy. This is supposed to be for fun and entertainment. The world is spiraling out of control right now. Just let me have my hockey team with our guys on it. Well, you got me there. That's 100% I am totally right there alongside you, Matt. I wish, our hockey team just had our guys on it and gave us some measure of stability in this crazy topsy-turvy world. That being said, let's take the first part of his question here. These guys do get traded. The one that I thought of, rather than the Eichel trade, was another Sabres trade, and that would have been the Ryan O'Reilly trade, where they traded him to St. Louis, and they ended up getting Tage Thompson out of it. I forget who else they got at that deal. I think somebody else came to them, and obviously O'Reilly won the cup there. They did get Peyton Krebs and who's he, like Alex Tuck from Vegas. So they got a couple of good players there. I don't know. Oh, they got Devin Levi from Florida in the Sam Bennett trade, the Sam Reinhart trade, and he hasn't really quite established himself here. Basically, if you get traded from the Sabres, you will win a Stanley Cup. So this is a little bit hard to kind of gauge. But is there anybody else? Am I thinking of any? I can't think of any other trades that like worked out for both teams after the dude was traded at the deadline and they got a bunch of really good players. But I'm sure it's happened at some point.
Yeah, I mean, the one that should jump out to everyone's mind is the Alexei Yashin trade, which certainly worked out well for the Senators. Also worked out well for the Islanders. But I do agree. Like this is the danger of it, and I think Brock is the probability of getting a return that is better than what Brock Nelson will provide to the Islanders for the rest of his career compared to whatever they get. It's really 50-50, and then you bake in like, well, Brock Nelson and kind of can plan around him better than just getting a draft pick and a young player or whatever, a prospect and an NHL ready young player, right? Like it's
the combo.
It's a lot. Yeah, it rarely works out as simply as the professional liars make it out to be. They're like, oh, you just get that package, and you did really well. The other one that the one that definitely comes to mind is the that's worked out gangbusters for the team that got something for the superstar player and it was a different situation, was Pierre-Luc Dubois to the Kings, because the Jets got Gabe Velarde and Alex Iafallo.
Well, that was like a summer trade, though,
right? And that's not, exactly. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. So I was thinking about this with the Rangers. Like I agree 100% with Matt. Like I'm sure that every Rangers trade works out well for them. So I'm sure that there was a point where they traded away guys at I mean they traded Scott Gomez. They got Ryan McDonough.
Right. Yeah.
So like there definitely have been a bunch for them, but
they traded Ryan Callahan and got Marty St. Louis. Yeah.
Right. It's not gonna work for us in that same way. So and yeah, Brock is our guy. I want to keep our guy till the bitter end. I felt that way about Josh Bailey and all. I mean, to even go back to what you were saying about the you had mentioned like he might be curious to see like what else is out there. Like Franz Nielsen, by all accounts, had no. He really didn't want to leave Long Island, and then got to that weird recruiting phase, and was like, "Oh, this is kind of fun." And
wasn't really offered a contract. Him and Poso weren't really offered anything.
It was very weird, but so like that's what happens. Like if it gets close to the end, so. But Brock is Brock's our guy, and I do tend to think that the Islanders would get less out of the return than they would out of Brock Nelson for the next 3 years or whatever.
I mean, that makes sense to me. I kind of agree. I don't know if there's anybody out there that would really equal that. Yep. What's funny? This isn't really answering Matt's question, but when I think of trades that worked out for both teams, the number one trade that comes to mind is one from like 1,000 years ago. And it was another summertime, I believe at the draft trade, or maybe just right after the draft. It was Jerome McGinley for Joe Nieuwendyk.
Right.
Nieuwendyk went to Dallas and, won a cup with the Stars, was very, very productive there before winning a cup again with the Devils. He had some really, really great years in Dallas. And Jerome McGinley is just the greatest Calgary Flame that ever lived, right? Like there's no sailing Jerome McGinley's reputation at all. And so that's a trade. Obviously Nieuwendyk had a lot less years in him than McGinley had, but that was the trade-off. They wanted somebody, younger and move this veteran player for somebody who was going to be established, was going to help them in the future. The Flames did, and boy, did they ever get that. And Dallas obviously made out like a bandit too in that trade. So that is absolutely not relevant to this situation at all. But when I think of trades that worked out for both clubs, that's always the number one. But yeah, I don't know. I just I would be very shocked if Lou pulled out a guy, traded Brock and pulled out a guy who was gonna, be what Brock Nelson is to the Islanders for the next 10 years or so. That 30 goal, maybe 50, 60 points and be a real leader in the locker room. I don't know if I can see that really happening. I can tell you that no matter who they get for Brock Nelson, if they trade him, the trade will be absolutely lampooned and blasted from every corner of the internet, because that's just how it works, right? So that will be no help. So time will only tell. But I don't know if I really want to wait that long to figure that out. But Matt, I don't know if we answered your question at all, but there's a lot to think about there, and especially when we wish that we could just recede into this world as the real world starts. Feels like it's come crashing down, but unfortunately, this world is just as unstable as that world, even though the stakes are a lot lower. So thank you very much for the great question. Okay. Our buddy Sab has another Brock Nelson question. He says, if Lou was to re-sign Brock at the deadline, what would your comfort level be for term and AAV? And at what point will it be this level? And he includes the link to the Sportsnet story of Bo Horvat signing his contract extension and Lou Lamoriello saying, well, it's too much and it's too long and it's for too much money, which is still one of the funniest things I've ever heard a general manager say. But this is a great question. Nobody's really talked about this. Like, what would a comfortable extension for Brock Nelson look like from a monetary point of view? Remember that the cap is going up to about 90 million. So there's a little bit more room to play with, but like, where would you be okay with Brock coming back? I mean, aside from just Brock coming back, what number do you think would be good there?
Yeah. Isn't it funny that like this isn't talked about at all?
No,
it's not. Like, it's
not at all.
Yeah. I mean, in my head, I always think of like a 3 or 4 year deal at whatever, 4.5, 5 million. Or whatever 4.5 and 5 million in today's cap would prorate out to like next year's cap. That would be in my mind, like he should be making right in that range. I feel like his cap projection will probably be right around there too. And but I mean, if he comes back for essentially the same amount of money as he's making right now for 2 or 3 years, that'd be great. And that's the other thing I think that is unexplored here is Brock is 33 with 34. He is he's slowing down a little, like his production is not up as much as it has been in previous seasons, but he's still a good player and can clearly be a number 2, number 3 center on a really good team, or play it on the wing if you want to move him out there. There's also a chance that like he signs like a shorter term deal and it's like, like if I wanted, maybe I'll go chase the ring in 2 years. If
right,
I do think that's a possibility. Like I have a sneaky suspicion that that's what's going to end up happening with Kyle Palmieri. Is like the Islanders sign him to like a 1 year deal for next year at like half his salary, and he just stays on 1 year's deals until he hangs him up. But that's my that. I don't know. I think I'd be pretty comfortable with like 6 million or less at 3 years.
Yeah, I was gonna say 3 years. 4. It's funny how big a difference 1 year makes. Again, at 30, he's gonna be 34 on October 15th. So really, right around the start of the season. And then if you sign him to a 4-year contract, that means you're paying. He's here till he's 38. That might be a little bit weird, but if they go, let's say they give him 4 million for 4 years, they give him the extra year, and they lessen the cap hit a little bit, then I think I would probably be okay with that. If it was 3 years and they gave him 5 million per, I think I'd probably be okay with that as well, because that is a little bit less than he's making now. I think that would be okay. Like, he's not going to get 7 or 8 because he's just not there. And I don't think that he's, going to ask for more necessarily than he's making now, because that also wouldn't be too logical. So I think I would be okay with that. Again, even if they sign him, whatever it is, people are going to say it's too much, it's too long, and it's for too much money. And then, it's funny when they say it, but it's not funny when Lou says it, of course, which is the funniest thing of all. It's funny you mentioned Palmieri. I'll give you what I think. I think he's going to get traded to the Devils. I think he gets traded right back to the Devils for like a 3rd round pick or something. Or it would be funny if he got traded to the Devils for Chase Stillman, who was the guy the Devils took with the pick that they got from the Islanders for Palmieri, who hasn't really panned out. Like he's still in the AHL right now, so that would actually be kind of funny. But I could just see that happening. He just probably just ends up playing out there, But yeah, so I think there's options there for Brock. I don't think he's going to go too short, which would be great if he signed a 2-year deal. That'd be awesome, but I don't think that's going to happen. I think he wants a little bit more security than that. And like you said, that he could sign for 3 years, and then if the Islanders still aren't that good, he can go play for the Oilers or the Panthers or whoever is, the cup contender at that point. So we'll see. But Sab, thank you for the great question. And thank you for once again reminding me of that hilarious joke that showed that the greater hockey online world has lost its sense of humor, and it does not know when to recognize a man being funny with perfect comedic timing anymore. Because the uproar after that, he said I think that was my final breaking point with quote unquote hockey Twitter. I'm like, come on, we're doing this, really? Everybody in attendance thought it was hilarious. You weren't supposed to watch the video. Anyway, okay, moving on. Our buddy Nick has our last Brock Nelson related question, and that is: if they reach the unrestricted free agent level, would you support the Isles backtracking? Oh, excuse me, let me start that again. Nick asks, if they reach UFA, would you support the Isles backing up the truck for Mikko Rantanen or Mitch Marner? You could lose Brock and replace him at center with Barzal, opening up a need for a winger. Marner and Matt Martin are close. He knows Lou. Toronto might spontaneously combust. Always. Feels like a win all around. I think on paper, that's a great idea, but I have long since given up the idea of the Islanders ever signing whatever summer's marquee free agent is out there. It's just never going to happen. I can't see a scenario in which the Islanders end up signing a Mitch Marner or a Mikko Rantanen. It's just not going to happen. It's a great idea, but I don't think it's going to happen. What do you think about Nick's idea here where, yeah, okay, we lost Brock Nelson, but holy shit, they just signed Mikko Rantanen to some big fat contract.
Yeah. My dream scenario here is that the Maple Leafs do what they normally do in the playoffs, and they see Marner walk for nothing, and it's rather than the Islanders who, how could you let this guy walk for nothing? They're like, well, it was time. There was nothing you could do. They were in a tough spot. And he comes here and wins a bunch of playoff rounds with the Islanders, because that would just it would just be so great to watch. So I would say, yeah, this is something that I'm very quietly, I'm not trying to put it out there too much and jinx it, but I'm very quietly keeping my eye on this, because it would just be so funny to watch Marner walk as long as they lose in the first or second round again and come here. Right. And light it up. I'm desperately rooting for it.
Who would be the funniest? What would be the funniest location for Marner to land in were he to walk away from the Leafs? Obviously, the Islanders are very, very, very high on the list.
Yeah,
but
I think
again, assuming it's not here, what would be the next funniest spot? I mean, it's got to be Utah.
Yeah.
Or some other, like Anaheim,
I
some
could see,
southern,
or like or like if you went to like Ottawa or Boston or one of their hated rivals, it would be really funny too.
That would be funny. Yeah. I don't think Marner has the stomach for that. I don't think he has the stomach to sign with the Bruins, for example, and then come back.
Maybe not, but he gets such a hard, like they ride him so hard after every time they get eliminated. That I would be, if I was me, I'd be like, yeah, screw you guys. I'll go sign with the Habs. Like I'll sign with who whatever team you hate the most at the moment. I'll go sign with that team. I'll fucking learn how to speak French. I don't care.
Yeah. Right.
Or maybe he can be like, yeah, I've known how to speak French this whole time, and I was a Habs fan growing up, actually.
Yeah, that would
Habs
be
fan. Yeah.
So I don't know. There's just options. I mean, unfortunately, the world hates Islanders fans, so he'll probably just resign there. But he would be the funniest. Rantanen, he ain't coming here. But Marner, and he ain't coming here either. Don't get me wrong. But he would be the closest, and like the one that plausibly you can kind of see him coming because of Martin, because of Lou, and because, like you said, they ride him real hard, man. He can come here, play on the island, live in a big house. I don't think he's married, but he can find a nice girl and have kids, and they could all go to these great schools. And that would be a lot of fun.
He is married, because he did a hilarious thing at his wedding. He did the gritty on his walkout and pretended like he hurt his hamstring.
How did I miss that?
Oh, it's just so funny, and you just yeah, it's
Well, I
crazy.
stand corrected.
Yeah, you
There you go.
can't because it was all over hockey Twitter for a very long time.
So the schools are in play. So let's make it happen.
Yep.
But Nick, I would not hold my breath. Thank you for the great question. Thanks for listening to this free sample of our monthly mailbag for February 2025. If you want to hear the full episode, go to patreon.com, sign up for the Country Club tier, and you listen to the whole dang thing. Thanks a lot.